What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Roster Watch. This is the Underdog Pick'em Show, and it is Thursday. Today, we're talking about the Thursday night football game, San Francisco 49ers, Seattle Seahawks, and these picks will be made over on Underdog Fantasy. You can see it right there on the right side of the screen. 50% deposit bonus up to $250. Again, go over to UnderdogFantasy.com today and sign up using the promo code roster, and you can get your first time deposit up to $250 in bonus cash. And remember to use that promo code roster. You also have the QR code on the right side of the screen. As I told you guys on Monday or on Sunday, if you tapped in for the Starter Sit Show on Roster Watch YouTube channel, every single week we do the Underdog Pick'em Show on Saturday nights. We're adjusting that to Friday nights for the Sunday slate, the main Sunday slate. You're going to get those best picks in as early as possible. We wanted to bump it up from Saturday night to Friday night to get the best possible numbers. And so that's what we're doing going forward. But today's Thursday. And you're like, Cody, why? Yeah, I haven't seen you in the middle of Thursday doing a show about Underdog. It's because beginning this week, we decided to do a Monday night football show and a Thursday night football show. And so on Monday night, we did indeed do a show. Our picks were 2-2. We hit 50% on Monday night. On the season, for the total season, we're at 60%, 43-29. But in prime time, we began on Monday night. We had 4 picks in. Blake Group, the kicker for the New Orleans Saints, he looks like he's 12 years old, did not come through and get us 6.5 kicking points. We smashed the Kareem Hunt 49.5 rushing total. We smashed the Travis Kelce 49.5 receiving total, and the Rashid Shaheed dart throw, which is always a dart throw with Rashid Shaheed. And generally, we always go higher on Rashid Shaheed's longest reception. It was a 20.5 in this one. I thought Kansas City was going to try and contain him. They couldn't. He went north of that 20.5 longest reception. Everybody knows the 44-yard receiving touchdown that Rashid Shaheed had. So I thought Groovy was going to come through and get us 3 out of 4, 75%, but he did not. So we're going to get that thing right tonight. San Francisco 49ers, Seattle Seahawks, starting now. I appreciate you guys all for tapping in, tuning in the chat right now. Appreciate you guys. Again, I'll actually be live in a couple hours doing the Circa Millions cast because Can't Miss Mitch couldn't make last night work. So we're going to be doing that one at 2:30 Eastern time here on the Roster Watch YouTube channel. Make sure you click like, click subscribe for this show. Turn those bells on, turn notifications on. We're live every single day of the week during the season with Roster Watch. All right, first and foremost, let's get it cracking from the jump. On the San Francisco side of things, the first thing that pops off the screen to me is Jordan Mason. Jordan Mason is, of course, the running back for your San Francisco 49ers, and his rushing numbers are 84.5 rushing yards, 1.5 receptions, 10.5 receiving yards. You can go half of a touchdown. His fantasy score is also available. They have my favorite, I should say. I'm trying to make sure it's still available. It is still available. There it is. 18 rushing attempts in the game. 18 rushing attempts in the game for our guy, Jordan Mason. They also have 97.5 rushing plus receiving. The number is just adjusted from 18 to 18.5 rushing attempts. I'm still going to go higher. I got my ticket in a couple of hours ago at 18.0 rush attempts. I'm going higher with Jordan Mason at 18.5 rush attempts over the course of the last few games during the season. 28, 20, 19, 24, and 14 this past week against the Arizona Cardinals. They need to establish the run. There's no Byron Murphy for the Seattle Seahawks in this game. He's hit this 18 number in 4 or 5 games. Again, he's hit 18.5. He's hit the 19 number in 4 or 5 games, and he's went north of 20 in 3 of 5 games so far. In that Arizona game, feels like a little bit of an outlier. It felt like a little bit of an outlier at the time. So I'm going to go ahead and ride with our guy Jordan Mason this week as a higher than 18.5 rushing yards. Again, you can get our weekly rankings up over at rosterwatch.com. You can become a pro or a premium member over at rosterwatch.com. You can see exactly where we have these guys ranked this week before you set your fantasy football lineups tonight. As far as Jordan Mason is concerned, I do have him running back 8 on the week. He's got the number 11 matchup on the RosterWatch matchup tool this week already. He's averaging 16.6 PPR points per game. He's averaging 22 touches per game, and he's averaging right at 1.6 targets per game is Jordan Mason. He's been a pretty high-end running back for your fantasy football roster to this point this season. So 18 rush attempts is going to be the first number that we put onto our slip tonight, and we're going to stay right there in San Francisco. And the reason I'm going to do that is because Ayuk had a good game last week. Debo's had his game. Kittle's been fine. But the Kittle number that jumped out the screen to me was his 9.45 fantasy points. Again, on Underdog, it's a half a point per reception. So 9.45 fantasy points for George Kittle. I'm going higher for George Kittle in this one. When I look at his season average in standard scoring, which is half PPR, 10.13 fantasy points per game, 15.88 fantasy points per game in PPR. He's averaging 7.25 targets per game, 5.75 receptions. So call it 3 points for the 6 receptions. Call it 60 yards. If he goes 3 for 60 or 6 for 60, that's 9 fantasy points. I think he's having a bigger game than that tonight for the San Francisco 49ers against Seattle. If they're going to win this game, he's going to be the focal point. This is the number 7 matchup on the RosterWatch matchup tool. I have him right here at tight end 6. Like I said before, Jordan Mason, running back 8, George Kittle, tight end 6. These are my 2 favorite guys on this offense in San Francisco this week. I think San Francisco goes into Seattle. They focus on the ground and pound. Brock Purdy needs to get back to what Brock Purdy once was, and that's establishing the run. It's establishing play action. That's getting the ball to your stud in George Kittle, one of the better tight ends in all of football. As my screen completely fails to reload here, I'm going to pull back up my slate of picks just from my sheet here, and I'm going to go with Jason Meyer, the kicker for the Seattle Seahawks here. 6.5 kicking points, I believe, is still the number. I'm going to pull it up officially. Still 6.5. His other numbers are 1.5 field goals made is the higher lower there. 2.5 extra points made is the higher lower there. But the total kicking points is 6.5. So again, if they score 4 touchdowns and a field goal, that gets us 7. If they score 2 field goals and 1 touchdown and they score 13 points, that gets us 7. That's where I'm going with Jason Meyer here. I do think Seattle kicks a few field goals in this game. If they do score a touchdown, I think we're going 7. I've told you guys before, I really enjoy these kicking point numbers. If they're 5.5, 6, 6.5, you rarely get them at that 5.5 number, but when you do get them there, it's kind of how can I not take this unless I think this team's going to get shut out, basically. So Jason Meyer here, 6.5 kicking points. I really enjoy taking these hires on the kickers, especially when I think the game is going to be a little bit of a mud fest, I guess you'd say. And we're going to get some more opportunities for these kickers in these games. So that's the third one here. So we got 3 overs, 3 hires. Jordan Mason higher than 18.0 rush attempts. I guess that number is now 18.5 Underdog. George Kittle higher than 9.45 fantasy points. Jason Meyer higher than 6.5 kicking points. And you go, Cody, we got, what about lower? How come we don't have any lowers? We're all hires. We do have 1 lower. And that lower is going to come from the wide receiver that has done the biggest boom. I guess I don't know how I'm phrasing this. My screen is freezing up on me for some reason. I think Trashman got a hold of my internet or something, but my screen is completely locking up on me for some reason. I can't type anything. It's not loading. Here it is. We're back. DK Metcalf. Half, you can get these are your available numbers. Half rush plus receiving touchdown, you can go higher for 1.4 times your money. 4.5 receptions, you can go higher for 0.86 times your money. 66.5 receiving yards, higher or lower. They're also giving you some lower numbers that you can go higher on, but you don't get as good a juice here. 49.5 receiving yards, 0.72x, and 59.5 at 0.92x. I'm going 66.5 receiving yards lower. That's my number here for DK Metcalf. I love DK Metcalf. Don't get me wrong. But I think this is a game where he's generally not dominated the San Francisco 49ers. In 3 of the last 4 games, he's hit this number. He had 104 against Detroit, 104 against Miami, 129 against New England. The Giants, he had 55. He gets Charvarius Ward this week. I do think that the options for Tyler Lockett, the options for Jackson Smith and Jigba in this game working on the inside against Diamondado Lenore and mind blank right now. The other cornerback in San Francisco are much more adventurous to the Seattle offense, as well as getting the ball to Ken Walker. Ken Walker's one I'm not going to put on the slip here, but Ken Walker's won 14 rush attempts. I know we talked about Jordan Mason rush attempts. I like the Ken Walker 14 rush attempts. I don't like it as much as these other 4, so I'm not going to officially put that on the slip here, but I do like the Jordan Mason 14 rush attempts over on Underdog Fantasy. That's DK Metcalf lower than 66.5 receiving yards. Jason Meyer higher than 6.5 kicking points. George Kittle higher than 9.45 fantasy points. And Jordan Mason higher than 18.0 rush attempts. My name's Cody Carpentier. This has been the Underdog Thursday Night Football Pick'em Show on RosterWatch.com. Remember to go over to UnderdogFantasy.com today. Use that promo code ROSTER and get a 50% deposit bonus up to $250. We appreciate you guys. We love you. We appreciate you. Click that like button. We appreciate if you click that subscribe button. We appreciate if you tune in to as many shows as you possibly can. Again, tonight, in a couple hours, we got the Circa Millions cast, which is generally on Wednesday nights. Tomorrow night, Friday night, we'll have the Underdog Weekend Pick'em Show. We'll talk about the Sunday slate predominantly, and then we'll be back on Sunday for the start or sit show at Roster Watch. Again, you can get everything else over at RosterWatch.com, from rankings to matchup tools to DFS up to trade targets from our man Byron Lambert. My name is Cody Carpentier. I appreciate you. I love you, and we'll see you in a few hours.
This is Anthony Richardson, and you're listening to Roster Watch.
This is AJ Brown.